Welcome back to 1010's podcast. We are live. We are sitting in the timing tower at Gingerman Raceway in South Haven, Michigan. And we are here for Gridlife Midwest 2016. What is up, friends? What are you guys doing? Are you excited?
I'm pumped. This is the best day I've had in a very long time.
Yeah, craziest weekend of my life, and we aren't even halfway through it.
Yeah, and today was just a practice day.
Yeah.
And it was still amazing.
Yeah, Robbie and I got to ride in some little Hondas, some EF hatches.
Did you, were those CRXs or were those Civics?
No, they were Civics.
Okay. I didn't look at them super
closely. So both of those cars were very, very similar, except I think the one that Robbie rode in has a little bit more of a cage.
Yeah.
And I think a little bit more motor. And the one that I rode in has more tire and a stickier tire.
Sure.
But they're very similar builds.
Yeah,
and both of those guys were like you'd watch their tack because they just have the stock tacks in them, and they're burying those things just 8,500 RPM,
and they keep going,
and they're up in there.
It's many
crazy.
Revs. So to give you guys a little bit of perspective, as I said, we are sitting in the timing tower, and that's why I keep hearing,
floor of the timing tower.
Hearing this really annoying folding chair that I'm sitting on, and we're waiting on. I think Ryan Turk's going to go back out onto the racetrack as soon as we get a Mustang cleared, which I think we did.
Yeah,
the Mustang is moving, but I think he's probably on the back stretch.
Yeah,
where
they're
we
out back
can't
on
see
turn
him.
10, coming back around to pulling back into the pit.
This track has got a lot of elevation changing. There's a lot of things happening when you're out there. And so even from the timing tower, you can't see the back set of the track.
Yep. Oh, there goes
Turek.
There goes Turk now.
Well, what happened was that Injuku Racing was supposed to come do like a shred sesh or whatever from 5:20 to like 7:30, and they were going to have spectators ride with them. But they are I think they're in like Daytona or something, so they couldn't make it here this weekend, so they're kind of trying to fill in that time slot with other drifters taking that and bringing people on the rides that were promised rides.
Oh, okay, so they're just gonna do a little bit of drifting here this afternoon then.
Yeah.
So good guy Ryan Turek taking people out for drifting.
Yeah, I'm sure it would have been fun to ride with Injuku, but I wouldn't be mad about riding in a 650 horsepower 2JZ swapped FRS with Ryan Turek.
Nah, I'd take that all day long.
So this is his drift car with number plates on it.
This is what he calls it, his street car. But I looked at it, and this is like when you watch that Street Outlaws show on Discovery Channel, and they call that a street car.
Yep.
He's not quite there, but he isn't far off of it.
It's got a lot of camber in the front.
Caged.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to drive that around all the time.
Actually, when that car's parked, we got to go take a picture of this because the viewers or the listeners need to see this. But the top of the shock tower is actually notched like 2 or 3 inches on one side so that his camber plate can go far enough out where he wants it.
Solid.
Just one side?
No. Well, yeah, like on both sides.
I
but it's notched. They cut a ton out of the top of the shock tower.
Awesome.
It's crazy.
It's a great looking car.
You'll probably hear him come flying around here in a second.
Yeah.
Since we're doing this live, you are going to hear background noise of high wrapping engines, and it's going to be sweet.
So we got in at 3 o'clock in the morning, which...
we thought it was 2 o'clock, but we have time zone changes, and it turned out to be 3.
Turns out none of us were prepared enough or had the forethought to see if the time zone changed when he came
Here
this way.
comes Turek.
Yeah, we apologize for the background noise.
We're not
No, we don't. God, if we could have that every day.
Man, he was like 100 feet out, more than that, 200 feet out from turn 1 out here at Gingerman, and he was completely sideways.
So what's scary about turn 1, what Robbie and I figured out when we were in those Hondas, was you're coming down the front straightaway, and the end of the front straightaway is uphill, and you're in the braking zone. They've got braking zone indicator posts. You're in the braking zone, and you can't see turn 1 because it's on the other side of the crest of the hill, and so it's kind of terrifying to do in a car going straight under braking. And Ryan Turek is throwing his car sideways at probably over 100 miles an hour into a corner he can't yet see.
So I think Ryan's going through 5 and 6 here now, so he's about halfway through the track. It's been an interesting day. We've seen a lot of really cool cars because the thing about us in the Midwest is there's not a lot of drift support there. There's not a lot of. I think actually Mid-America Motorplex. What's it called now?
RPM.
Raceland Park.
Raceway Park of the Midlands.
Of the Midlands would be a great place to drift.
They do a couple drift events.
4 or 5 a year, I think.
Drift Collective, and we've talked about a little bit before. And they do a few events there. I actually have them on my Facebook calendar.
But we we don't have any exposure to drift personally, and most people in the Midwest don't. So we have seen some awesome machines today because there's just stuff we're not used to. You know, like the Drift GTO is something that we saw in Des Moines. He's part of the Drift Collective, the O Drift Collective. There's one here that's equally as awesome.
It is a rough in a good way.
Yeah, it's rough because he uses it.
Yeah, he's not.
Sure.
That car has clearly been on off track more than once.
There are more 240 and RX-7s with LS swaps than I've ever seen in the entire world.
Yeah, like if there's 10 drift cars on the track, 7 of them are 240s, and 6 of those have LSs in them.
There's a few SRs.
There's a handful of SRs, but there was one guy there's a SR swap 240SX. It's kind of similar to mine. He's sitting there with the computer, and it almost sounded like he's having the same issues I'm dealing with my 240. Like it sounded like he was trying to get into boost and just wasn't.
Yeah, there was another car too that was out on the track that sounded like, and I think maybe he only did one lap. Now that I think about it, he went out and it sounded like he was having some boost issues as well. So.
Was that a time attack car?
No, I thought it was a drift car. Actually.
Okay, because there's also a huge time attack field here today, and we got to watch him do a bunch of practice sessions, and there's some insane builds here.
Not all, and that's just it. Not all of the cars that are going to be here for the actual race are here yet, and there's hundreds of race cars here ready to go, and they are claiming that this is the biggest time attack field in North American history. Between
the drift cars, the time attack grid, and then they also have instructionalized HPDE. There's a ton of cars here, and the car show, which doesn't even technically start till tomorrow, is still decently full. There's a Chevy Cavalier here. Everyone knows how much I love Cavaliers.
A JDM Cavalier.
So isn't it a Toyota Cavalier?
So, fun fact for those of you who don't know anything about Cavaliers, which I'm going to assume is basically all of you, Toyota bought some of them, rebadged them as Toyotas, sold them in Japan. And they had a few small differences. The taillights were different. They had side markers on the fenders. A lot of people have imported that stuff back over here and put them on their cars. It's JDM,
yeah, a full JDM Cavalier.
I don't know why you don't have one. That one had had the Quad 4. Is that what it's called?
Yes.
And it's an engine that you hate, and I think you've talked about.
Well, it's not that I hate it. It's a great little motor. It's just not very reliable, and there's better options that just fit in there, that just bolt in there.
And that one was turbocharged.
It was turbocharged, which is the right way to do it.
With a 5-speed. It was a very clean car. It was nice. We'll see if we can get some pictures of it. I assume he's going to be here all weekend. So basically the paddock where they're having the car show is pretty empty today. I'm assuming that most people worked today or traveled today. They weren't insane like us and showed up at 3 and then got up at 7:30 to try to make it here in the morning. And we weren't late, but there was a line out the gate.
Quite a line.
There were that line stayed full all day.
Yeah,
Robbie just I'll see you guys later. Hopped out of the car and just took off down the line, just handing business. Hey, you like podcasts? Check us out.
Yeah, it turns out Robbie's quite the marketer, and we had no clue. We just needed to stoke the fire and
get me back in my element. This will be like me at Hot Import Nights when I talk. Walk up to everybody.
If any of you guys are listening, thank you. Welcome.
Yeah, we so really cool, kind of a surreal moment. We had you posted on Instagram that we were at Gingerman for Gridlife, and somebody hit you up and bought a T-shirt from us. Which
we only had 2 leftover shirts from our first sale. We just had to order a few extra to make the limit, and I've since then sold a handful of them and had 2 waiting for us. And they messaged me like, "Hey, do you have any shirts left? We're leaving." Yeah, I got 2 XLs. And they walked all the way across the paddock, handed me $40, and left, which is just so surreal.
Yeah,
they're going never in a million years.
Racing. Yeah, they're going sprint car
That's
racing
pretty
tomorrow.
Cool. Yep. Something we need to do at some point.
Yeah, so they drove.
We live
they were
in the
here.
dirt track capital of the world, and we haven't gone to one yet.
You know what I'm realizing now? We have a 1010 sticker sitting right there. We could have slapped on a sprint car.
We'll get something.
Oh well.
Yeah, later.
Actually, if he just messages us, we'll send it to him. If you're listening, dude, seriously, message us. We'll send it to you.
Yeah, we'll send you whatever you want.
It's cool.
Don't have me do it though, because I'm terrible at that stuff.
I'll do it.
Yeah,
I still haven't put James's stickers in the mail.
Sorry, James from Kango Motorsports. We're really failing to get. He said though he's not racing until July, so
good. That makes me feel mildly better.
We should give James another shout out anyway. So James has a pretty awesome website, kangomotorsports.com. A lot of information on there about. Mainly it's about Spec Racer Fords, but he's got some good information on there about 240Zs as well. If that's your flavor, I think he's got a pretty nice car actually.
So I was reading his article that he got on tracktune.com about Spec Racer Ford.
And TrackTune is like the overall website for Slip Angle, by the way, if we have any Slip Angle fans.
One of the things that I learned while reading that I thought was really good about Spec Racer Ford, that I liked about that series over the other spec classes that I know of, like Spec Miata, they have sealed motors, and they have set horsepower limits.
In Spec Racer Ford they do?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I mean,
that means that you don't end up with a $50,000 motor that makes 3 more horsepower than the rest of the field, because it's not a thing.
Right. And people aren't doing that stupid, not really cheating thing, but bending the rule thing. That
gray area stuff.
Yeah, the Miata guys were doing. Did you share that on the podcast already once before?
No, I really should. I forgot about it, and I kind of feel bad now that you call me out on it.
Sorry. What, do you remember enough of it to talk about it now?
I'm not going to know.
Okay.
Are we talking about like what Josh Fettis was talking about in his interview?
No, James, our friend with Kanga, he wrote an article for TrackTune about Spec Racer Ford.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was calling you out on the Miata thing, not saying, hey, you didn't read that
what about the Miata?
I was talking about, so do you remember what the rule it was, that gray area that they kind of
they
played
were
with?
changing the like the back angle of the valves and stuff like that.
So basically, 7 of the 10 guys in the championship for Spec Racer, Spec Miata for the year.
I think it was more than that. I think it was like 8 of the top 10, and 7th overall ended up winning because of it.
Because of this gray area rule that they kind of played with, they changed the angle of the valves, you said, and therefore that made it, 2 more horsepower or something like that. Maybe not even that, but that was enough to get basically 6 people ahead of the fastest guy that had followed the rules. So.
Yeah, there's a better explanation of it in Josh Fettis' interview if you want to hear about it.
Yeah, it's a kind of a bizarre deal, but...
Josh is my Miata expert for all the times I have questions about Miatas.
But I did want to thank James with Kanga again, Kanga Motorsports, because he listed us as one of his partners and friends on his website, and is always super supportive. So, and we were really excited to see him get an article on TrackTune. So. The guys at Slip Angle have a really nice website, TrackTune. I think it's just tracktune.com, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Sorry if we're butchering that, but you should Google search that, no less, and check that out, because they've got a nice website. They've got some nice tech tips on there. I know that Jabay posted on there about roll bars.
Yeah, I learned a ton about the apparently a harness bar.
Yeah.
Not a safe thing.
Not at all.
Total news to me.
Do you remember much of that article?
So what the deal is that if you're wearing a harness bar, or if you have a harness bar and you're wearing a 5-point harness because of it, and you roll your car, if it rolls over and ends up on its nose, which is where they usually end up because of weight, and the roof crushes, you can't slouch down like a 3-point would allow you to do.
Sure.
The factory 3-point, because of the 5-point holding you in place. And so if you don't have a full, like at least a bolt-in cage or a roll bar, harness bars and 5-points are more dangerous than just the factory restraints that the car came with.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, because when we bought the Fiat, it's probably 6 years ago now, we were looking at what's the appropriate way to get safe seatbelts in it, because there were old seatbelts, and that may have only had lap belts in it. I can't remember now, but so we're trying to figure out, we need something more robust, because the seats weren't very good, and we need to get held in place. Well, we found that the SCCA rule, anyway, is you cannot have a harness, a 5-point harness, a 4-point, whatever, anything that holds you upright like that holds you back against your seat in a convertible, unless you have a legitimate roll bar. I mean, you can't have a harness bar.
Well, it makes sense.
And it's the same reason, because obviously if the car rolls, especially on a convertible, there's not much strength in that piece that holds your windshield. I mean, that's only going to do so much if you roll the car on a racetrack. So they and if that thing rolls, it's going to smash you.
Right.
So they want you to have a roll bar in those cars if you're going to run those harnesses. So that's why we have a roll bar. Not only that, it makes the car more stiff, and it's more safe in general, and it's really just a good idea.
So he does say in there, if you're just going to autocross the car, and the 5-point is more to hold you in your seat than it is as a safety restraint, it's probably not a bad deal.
Right.
But if you're using it as a safety as safety on a track, and you have the potential to end up on your top, which everybody does, they're probably more dangerous than just using the factory harness.
Which would probably explain why they're still technically illegal. If you have a 5-point in your car and you're just driving around with it, they can give you a ticket for not wearing a seatbelt, because that is not the factory seatbelt.
Isn't your car that way?
Oh, yeah.
Don't you have a 5-point, but
Mine are anchored to the seatbelt bolts on the
But
back
you,
seat.
you
I
couldn't
don't
slouch. So
No, mine are
so
very,
that's
very
interesting.
mine are dangerous
you
and
might
unsafe. I admit
actually, yeah, because this is something I'd never thought of.
No,
but you might
I-
actually be denied being able to go on a track at a track day with
'Cause
your
I-
240
yep.
because of that.
that. I don't have a cage.
I think it depends on the governing body.
But I think even if they allow you, I'm not sure it's a good idea.
No, I mean it's definitely not
At
safe.
the end of the day, not safe is not safe.
Yeah.
It helps that I'm not a convertible. I have a hard
Yeah,
top
for sure.
I have a bolted-in sunroof, which without the track and all that stuff. But still, I knowingly go that way with that, and it's not as safe as it should be. No.
Well, see, I didn't think anything of it with the RX-7. I was just going to put a harness bar in it, but it's making me rethink that idea now because
Yeah,
I would like to do some track stuff with that car.
And really, for a couple $100 more, is it really a bad thing to put a cage in over a $40 harness bar?
No, they're not. For 240s and RX-7s, I mean, you can buy bolt-in cages.
You could even get a back half cage.
Yeah.
It's a roll bar. That's perfectly acceptable.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to move forward into the passenger compartment where it becomes dangerous on the street. If you get in an accident, you could hit your head on it, like my Omni.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. You shouldn't have a cage in a car that you use on the street that has the supports that come forward because you really could hit your head on that pretty.
I
bad.
have it in the Omni, but I wear the 5-point, and I have checked. Without me coming out of that seat, I couldn't hit my head on anything because the seat is so low, and the bars along the side are not there.
Yeah.
It's not a crash impact cage. It's more of a stiffening cage. It's a drag cage, I think, is the actual technical term for it. So
the real issue that they have with those harnesses is that they're not DOT rated.
yeah, I could get a ticket for having that. I mean,
Yeah, I don't think that for the most part, if you have that support in your car, a harness is definitely safer. But if it's not DOT rated, technically they can write you a ticket for it.
of all the things that's wrong with that car, that's probably the least thing I'm concerned about when it comes to being pulled over.
DOT rated harnesses. Well, there's not many of them.
That's probably like blue dots in your taillight covers, which is something that old hot rodders did. No one knows that's a thing. But
I still don't understand that, but it was just a style thing.
I'll see if I can have my dad snap a picture of it, and I'll show it to you sometime.
What is he having in his international? Or
Yeah, I think he has them. I think he has them on the Scout.
what year is this Scout? Like a 68?
It's a first-gen Scout. I don't remember what years it is, but it's the little 4-cylinder Scout, and they have just perfect circular taillights on the back, and there's just a little blue dot right in the center of it.
Is it?
It's made out of the same material and it's semi-opaque, just like a brake light. It's just blue instead of red.
It would be.
And it has like a real small chrome trim
Yeah.
around it. Just pops into a hole you drill in.
That's kind of bizarre.
It's a weird
It was
thing.
a
I
thing.
don't get it either. I mean, it doesn't look bad, but I don't see what it adds either.
No, me neither. It's kind of a weird stylistic
I'll
thing.
get a picture.
But so right now we're just kind of hanging out. It's
Yeah,
about.
let's talk about Gridlife a little more.
It's about what time is it? It's about 7:00. The track has gone cold. I don't know if Turk's going to do any more laps or not. He kind
He's
of
not on course.
Oh, he's sitting in his paddock right now with all the people around his car.
is he? Okay, so maybe he was just, or maybe he's swapping people in and out. So maybe he's going to do some ride-alongs here for a little while for the people that we're going to do ride-alongs.
Yeah, so the track's technically not cold for another hour.
So, so far, knowing there's not every car here, favorite cars from either of you guys?
Ooh.
You got a favorite, one that really sticks out above the rest? Drift car, time attack car, show car, whatever?
I think that Team Skillcorn Corvette with the
Black one?
the murdered out one right here sitting below us. I'm a huge fan of that. I like the fact that they have the I don't know if that's those air jacks or what do you
air jacks.
air jacks that he drives up, puts it down, and then his car's lifted off the ground. Full race. It's as badass
Yeah,
as
it's
it
quite-
gets.
it's quite the car.
And
Yeah.
big
Slicks.
big rear spoiler, vented hood, slicks, the whole 9 yards.
It's a great looking car.
It's a very hardcore track car.
There's also a 2JZ swapped S15 240SX sitting over.
See, that's what I would have expected you
in
to
the,
do.
It's two JZs. Oh, that one over there.
It's,
Yeah,
black
it's
one.
in the
Yeah.
strictly. No, wait.
I don't think
It's under the Tuner Tools
Yep.
banner
Tuner
right
Tools.
there. So it's an amazing car.
Michael,
Oh, this is actually a really hard one. I don't
you
know.
want me to go? Because I have a clear winner for me.
Well,
No kidding.
I think I'm going to mention. I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's pretty damn cool.
Okay.
The Datsun 510.
Ooh,
which has the
son of a bitch! I'd forgot about that one.
Ecotech, right?
Yeah, it's got a 2.4 Ecotech engine in it.
Yeah, and a
Which is
5-speed.
the GM four-cylinder for those who don't know.
And God, it's just a really cool car. There's pictures of it already on our Twitter account. I don't know when we're going to release this, but there's pictures of it on Twitter. I've got some nice pictures of it that I took with my camera. It was cool when it was on track. It looked awesome, and then we got up to it and went, holy shit, this thing is swapped. This is absolutely sweet.
I just assumed that it was an SR20 because that's what you do with 510s is you take out the old small motor, you put an SR20 in it, and you move on with your life. But because it was a unique swap, it made it even more of a unique car.
Yeah, and the build was really impressive. Like the attention to
Very
detail,
clean.
everything was done well. Like it had a good paint job. All the arrow was bolted on right. There was no damage. Like it was. I don't know if he's just finished it this winter or what, but it is gorgeous.
I will say I have some S13 envy, which might be a
I
little
get that.
unusual for me, but I've always liked the hatchback idea, the kind of hatchback sports car, and I like they always had the black greenhouse.
Is that all of them? They're always black like that if it's factory? Is the top always black?
I want to say yes. I think they are.
I
now
thought
that you
they
mention
were.
it.
I like the taillights on those cars.
The taillights look good. I know
Yeah,
Adam doesn't like them, but I like pop-up headlights.
I'm not a pop-up fan.
That's one of the only cars I like pop-up headlights
I
on.
don't like, well, I haven't seen any winky eye cars, but I don't like the partially open ones.
As I've aged, my view on pop-ups is softened, but it's still not my thing.
I get that.
But, I not saying I'm going to go out tomorrow and sell the RX-7 and get an S13, but if I had to get another car, another drift car, which maybe we'll get into that conversation.
Are we going there?
Well, let's let Adam finish, and then we'll come back to that.
Okay, so my favorite car, it's a time attack car. There's a team called Professional Awesome, which I think is the cockiest race team name I think I've ever heard.
And we love it.
Yeah, that's our thing.
And what did they bring with them this weekend?
They have, I don't know if it's an 8 or a 9, but it's an Evo. And it is built to the hill DIY arrowed out, like huge rear diffuser, giant front splitter, rear mounted radiator with these giant like 6-inch ducts on the side sucking air through it and pushing it back out the back of the car. Full slicks, built 4G63. It looks the business, and I really like it.
It's pretty cool. Illumilights, a lot of Illumilight.
Yeah, so Illumilight's kind of my product of choice when I finally get around to building aero on whatever it is I end up building aero on.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the reasons I seeked that car out, is because I wanted to look at what they did and see how they fastened it together and stuff like that. And it looks as easy as I had envisioned in my head, and I'm even more about it now.
So we got a truck out on track. I wonder what he's doing. There's somebody standing. Oh, we're picking up parts,
I think
aren't
we're
we?
maybe picking up parts or picking up corner workers, maybe.
Are they?
No, because he's walking away. I don't know.
Fun thing that we learned this weekend, apparently it's just normal at a drift event when you finished your session. They just send a pickup out, and he picks up everybody's bumpers.
Did you get that picture where the truck's like out in the, like, I don't know, probably 50 feet off track, and he's parked between two front bumpers because multiple cars went that far off course and lost front bumpers?
Yeah, it's I don't think I've seen a session where somebody hasn't lost a bumper.
Well, and I know they always did like the clip-on bumpers, and they have like the
they're
rubber
designed
band
to come
tie
off
strap thing.
very easily.
So like as soon as you hit them, they pop right off, and then they pop right back
Probably
on.
damages it less if it comes off easily like that, frankly.
Yep, absolutely. So that was kind of cool. But that leads me to our next discussion, which is something we've been talking about today.
God, I want to build the drift car so bad.
Robbie and I are going to build drift cars.
I'm not sold on this yet.
I couldn't be more sold. If they get me in a drift car today or tomorrow, I don't know if there's any
It's
turning
not
back.
an if, it's a when.
When they get me in a drift car, is there really any turning back for me? I don't think so.
I think I'm going to want one.
Yeah.
Basically, the RX-7, it's ready to go. I just need to get it set up.
You
It's
already
just
have a drift car. You just need a hydraulic brake.
Some mild setup changes in your suspension.
Yeah, hydraulic brake.
And a hydraulic e-brake.
That's not that K.
And $10 says
Dude,
somebody.
Is that Honda with that kit car that's basically just a tube chassis car with the K member from a CRX in the back of it?
It very well may be. We'll go check it
I
out.
haven't
See if
seen
that's.
them yet
I'd be
before.
really excited if there's a local here.
Yeah, God, that looks a lot like it. You wouldn't see many of those, would you?
Well, it was built somewhere around here, and he came and bought it and brought it home.
Oh, really?
So maybe that's the original builder.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe he built more than
maybe
one.
he built more than one.
Maybe that was the prototype, and this is the better of the two.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, I can't really see a good reason not to.
Well, I remember last winter when I wasn't super serious about finishing or adding more to the 240 I have, and that one guy out in West Des Moines was selling a roller S13, which is completely
Caged.
It was caged. It was drift spec ready. All I had to do was throw
It was
an
his
engine
old
in it.
missile car.
Yeah, and he wanted $5,000 for the roller, done, race car ready, and it was the right price. $5,000 for that car was well worth the money. All you need to do is throw an engine.
It was a nicely built car too.
It was
It was a good looking car.
Drift missile's a term that drifters use. They like a lot of the pro level drifters. They have their car that they take to competitions, and then they have what they call a missile, which is their rough, old chassis that they just go out and figure out lines on tracks and stuff like that.
Doesn't matter if you put it in a wall.
Yeah, it is specifically built to not give. The field of fucks is barren when it comes to driving.
The funny
that
thing
car.
was though, that car was straighter than the 240 I have now. It was flawless.
Turns out it was.
Turns out my
you didn't
240
know
now.
until like a week ago, but hey.
But yeah, no, his is. It was like he had it all popped up like on jack stands and like way in the air so I could like roll under it when I looked at it. I mean, it was pristine.
Oh, you went and looked at it?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know you went and looked at it.
I spent time with that car.
Robbie.
No one bought the 240. I almost pulled the trigger because I had another
it was for sale. It was
I had
for
an
sale.
SR20 sit in my garage. I had a completely built car and I was ready to buy this one.
Robbie's the king of excuses, apparently.
All right, let me ask a serious question then. If we were going to do it, let's say you do find another chassis, would you put an SR20 in it? Try
No.
to remove yourself from the pain recently.
Nope.
You got a new motor, new
Nope.
ECM, new wiring harness.
No.
You wouldn't do it. You go LS.
Yes.
See,
It's too damn easy, man.
It is.
I don't
It's
know
too easy.
I don't know if I'd do the LS, but I'd want something with more displacement for torque. Because I think torque is very important for maintaining drift.
Yeah, for sure. And with a naturally aspirated car too, it's right. A naturally aspirated V8 with that much displacement, it's right there. It's ready to go.
Yeah, and I think you're going to have enough problem just keeping the car on the road. The last thing you want to do is have to fight with the engine all the time. And so a naturally aspirated big V8 with a decent cam in it, definitely the way to go.
It's too easy. I know it's boring. I know people hate it and people roll their eyes when you talk about LS swap and stuff, but it's just too damn easy.
You have to.
So I think I've talked about this before. When it comes to race cars, you have a triangle, and on each side of that triangle is a category. You have cheap, fast, reliable, and you're always supposed to pick two. You can either have one that's cheap and fast, but it's not reliable.
Yeah.
It's fast and cheap, but it's, or whatever. I think I just listed the same
Whatever.
two. But the LS, I think, might be the unicorn of that situation.
It kind of sits in the middle where you get
Because
all of them.
it is cheap, it is
Relatively,
fast,
yep.
and it is reliable.
It's
as
fast,
long as
yeah.
you do it right, which you can still do cheaply, it's reliable.
And don't overdo it too, which is a trap that we've seen a lot of people fall into. Don't overbuild your car.
So the guy that I went out and rode with today, he's instructing tomorrow. And one of the things that Gridlife does that I think is cool is you get hooked up with your instructor long before you show up here. You're supposed to like friend each other on Facebook and get to know each other a little bit. So he knows what car he's riding in tomorrow coming into it. And it's like a big turbo 400 wheel horsepower newer Civic Si. This kid's in the beginner class of the HPDE track day.
Yeah.
So he has a 400 horsepower Civic and he's never been on a track.
Well,
Talk about jumping the gun.
Well, and my thing too is that racing is supposed to be fun, even though it seems like recently for us it's not been fun because a lot of shit's been broken. But here's the thing: if your car runs and it runs pretty well, and it's still decently fast, and that's a good time. If you're overbuilding your car and it's fucking broken all the time, that's not fun.
Or if you're scared of it and you can't
Right.
drive it to its full potential.
Right,
You take it
absolutely.
to a track and you're constantly letting off or you're spinning out and you're too impatient to actually learn how to drive the car. You're wasting your own time.
I think, literally, you could go out and get a junkyard pulled LS that makes 300 horsepower. You don't even have to change the cam. Just put it in, a chassis like an S13 or an ARC-7 FC ARC-7 or something like that. That's enough, dude. What are you trying to do here? I've been racing a car that makes
I think with
120
drifting,
horsepower.
it might even be worse with more power than regular racing is, because drifting is a lot of car and throttle control,
Yep.
and more horsepower makes that really difficult, because I would imagine that it's really easy to do it too
overdo
much.
it, and especially with turbochargers, man.
Yeah, and then you have a not linear power band. It's unpredictable. It's hard to find where you need to be. That's got to be difficult too.
And really, the only guy here that's putting down real power is Ryan Turek and his 650 horsepower in his FRS. Everyone else is around 300, 350.
That green 350Z that's out here,
270 horsepower.
270 horse. I don't know if that's wheel or what it is, but 270.
It's good enough.
And I think
working. They're
I
drifting.
think he's I don't know that he's a great. I don't know that he's probably been doing this real long, but he's out there and he's getting sideways.
Hey,
Got a
he's
great
on
car
the
for it.
same track as Turek is. He was out there with him.
We're not the ones out on the track.
No,
we're the ones
we're standing
here
here
talking to
watching
you
them.
guys.
Yep.
So,
Yep. So also the Hoonigan guys are here. A couple of guys from Hoonigan are here.
yep. Chair Slayer, who
Chair
has
Slayer.
got a kind of an interesting story because he's wheelchair bound. I don't know why or how, but his car is fully driven on hand controls, and he's a drifter.
So he's got a hydraulic e-brake, a hand throttle.
Hand throttle.
What else he got? Hand shifter, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Handbrake.
Hand brake.
And a steering wheel.
And a steering wheel. So he needs 4 hands, really. But he
It's
somehow
got to
gets
be
it done.
quite the deal. But
And then what's the other
Life?
Hurt Life? Yeah. So I've seen that car.
What's cool about those two? Chair Slayer is a 240 SX. Hurt Life is an FCRX7 with an LS in it. So
And I've seen that car on the internet. It's kind of cool seeing it in person.
yeah, it's funny because they're friends. They hang out together, and they both have the same cars as Michael and Robbie. So it's kind of funny to see that.
But yeah, it's cool to see that car in person finally after seeing it on the internet. And I've when I bought my RX-7, I went down this path of I'm gonna V8 swap one. That's a car that comes up pretty easily when you look it up on YouTube. And it was cool to see. The car in person now because it's made an interesting evolution. I don't think he was doing as much drift stuff at the beginning.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it was kind of more on the show side, and then you see.
I can see that when you look at the car.
Yeah, because I don't think he's got molded bumpers. It kind of looks like he does. He's got.
It might have been at one point.
Pretty big body kit on it, so you can kind of see that the car has changed over time, and it's just kind of cool to see from the beginning to now, and it's cool to see the ridiculous stack of tires that those guys have sitting over there.
I bet they have, I don't know, 32 tires
There's at least 30 tires sitting next to his car.
between the two of them.
Brand new
Between
sticker
the two.
on them.
And then I don't know that includes Ryan Turk's stack either.
No,
Are those all Maxxis tires, or are those a different brand? It's probably whoever
Turk's on Hancooks, I believe.
It's whatever their sponsor is, I suppose. Maxxis is they're a big
They're a
sponsor for this.
contingency sponsor for the Time Attack. I've actually seen some guys on the new Maxxis Slick.
Yeah, and so is Koyo.
Koyo
radiators.
Rad. They
Yep.
make the aluminum radiators. Power Stop is the brake contingency sponsor.
Yep. And so it's going to be interesting because that Maxxis tire I think it's been a really good tire.
People seem to
that
really
new
like
tire.
Josh has the new 200 treadwear tire on his Miata. He's done a little bit of street miles with him, and he's done one event with him. Very happy with it.
I think they're in that kind of same price bracket as an RS3, if I'm not
roughly,
mistaken.
I think.
Yeah, I think, well, because I don't think he'll be too mad about me saying this. Josh is cheap. Very.
I think we're all cheap.
I'm
so it's
cheap.
fine.
I get that.
So Josh wouldn't have bought the Maxxis if it was the most expensive tire.
Which is kind of what talked me out of Yokohamas or Toyos.
Yeah, I've been running Toyos on my Fiat, but they've been takeoffs, and that's the only size you can get for those wheels. So
Yeah, when
that makes sense.
I ran the R888 on my Omni first.
Yes.
But that was because it was the most streetable tire that fit on my rim.
Right.
And now I have a separate set of wheels, and I wouldn't probably not buy another set of R888s for what I do.
It seemed awfully expensive, and I've been extremely happy with my Hankook RS3s.
Yeah, a 205 55 13 I think is what I use, or a 205 60 13. I have to double check. $250 a piece.
Yeah, I had $1,200 in my first set of AAAs.
They're tiny. They're little tiny
teeny
tires. It's
itty-bitty tires.
ridiculous.
I think mine are a 225 40 13, if I remember right.
And this is the second GTR we've seen with our 888s on it. We saw it.
Oh, yeah, we
actually
saw
at
another
our
one of
hotel.
those today, didn't we?
Yeah, he came up this direction. The one that we saw the other day that our buddy owns that races with us at Iowa region. He had 285
I
squares.
think they were 285 square. R888s.
That is
ridiculous.
a lot of rubber.
If my 13 cost $1,200,
Yeah.
I don't want to know.
Yeah, what that costs. And so my other buddy that I won't mention his name that has the blue M5 that's straight piped.
Uh-huh.
The is that an F10?
I have no
I
idea.
don't
Sorry,
know.
BMW friends.
It's the V10
Yeah,
motor.
it's
whatever
the-
that is.
He had I don't even know.
315 maybe?
Yeah, square on that thing. He took it out to Iowa Speedway when I went out there
Sweet.
and did my HPDE day. That was pretty sweet. That car is awesome. I love that car. It was in an accident, and he bought it. I assume he bought it from Copart, or he's got a dealer license, so who knows where he bought it from. But he brought it back to the shop. He is a master fabricator, and he just put the thing back together, put straight pipes on it, put some ridiculously huge wheels and tires on it, and does track days, screws around with it.
For those of you who have seen that car or seen a car with that motor in it, have ever heard that motor, imagine that thing with straight pipes. They're glorious.
In a bold track.
They're very old school Formula One-esque.
In a track, because Iowa Speedway is banked, so you're down inside the
big bowl.
banking.
You're just down inside of it,
And,
that thing's just screaming around the turn 1 and 2.
Yeah,
Great sound.
there was nothing louder than that there that day.
God,
It was
it
so
would've been
cool, so cool. Well, what else we got here? We got so later on tonight. They're doing kind of the big thing about Gridlife is obviously you got this really sweet time attack field that they do.
Some drifting. Some
And
time
drifting.
attack. Track days.
Track
for those
day.
of us who wanted
But then
to
at
do it.
night they do their music
Like a,
show.
like a festival, really.
It really is.
Yeah, and so they've got. This is where we're gonna show our colors here. We don't know much about the people that are here. It's a lot of EDM stuff.
EDM stuff.
There's not a
which we
single
aren't
DJ
really-
on that list that I recognize.
But the interesting thing about that is a lot of those people, I did look them up, they are pretty famous. I mean,
Oh,
they
yeah,
got a lot of
absolutely.
followers. There's some big name acts here if that's your type of music.
Yep.
But they posted on, I think their Facebook, they probably did it everywhere, but I saw it on Facebook. They said, what music do you guys want? And it was like 85% EDM.
We want party music. Plain
Well,
and simple.
that's what this is. It's a giant weekend partying.
Yeah, the thing is, to me, this is everything you wanted Hot Import Nights to be. Like, it's... Like, we wanted this to be... Hey, man. We're the timing tower. People are walking in and out. You're going to hear it. It's fine.
No worries.
So, but anyways, like when you went to Hot Import Nights, you always wanted it to be like this crazy awesome concert. You want this awesome car show. You thought it'd be this big deal, and like, this is what you thought it would be. Like you have racing all day, and then you show up at night and do like the big party, and then you got the car show on Saturday. I mean, it's 3 days of nothing but everything you want. I think Race Wars from Fast and Furious only way
it's kind of like that, isn't it? It's pretty cool.
Race Wars from Fast and Furious. Of course, Robbie would go there.
I would.
Yeah, the guy
My
that,
racer heritage.
The guy that came up here to he was checking on some audio equipment for the tower. He gave Robbie an interesting look when he said that.
It's a good comparison. He may not recognize it, but he'll walk away and go, you know what? He's right.
So they're gonna do.
Except for the drag racing part that we're not doing.
Yeah, we don't need any of that
That's a good
drag
point.
racing stuff today.
So I think they do that. They do that for 2 nights, don't they? So they do that Friday.
Yeah,
and Saturday.
there's some. I think the smaller names tonight and the bigger names are tomorrow. Is probably how it works out, because I think Saturday is the crazy day. But there were cars on track today. There's racing tomorrow. There's racing Sunday.
Yeah, it's starting to fill in. Actually, there's quite a few people coming in.
They will
More
let
tents set up, and
they are letting
you
new
can
people
camp here.
They will let new people show up until 1 in the morning. You can go in and out anytime you want.
Well, that's nice because if you did leave from somewhere after work on Friday, you could
still
get
get in
in.
here.
Yeah, that's a good idea actually.
So, but yeah, if you show up after 1 a.m., you can't get your original wristband.
I imagine there's a lot of Chicago people here. This is only 2.5 hours from Chicago. It's
a great event for them.
not a bad weekend.
No, I think it's perfect.
So what else we got, guys? What else we want to talk about? We're recording this on Friday. I think we mentioned that before, but we got quite a weekend ahead of us still.
Yeah, I don't want to give too much away, but we have reached out to some people, and we've got some interesting interviews that are coming up for you guys. So that's going to be fun. Keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, we'll keep working on that. I don't really have anything else. It's going to be a really exciting weekend, and we'll get as much content out as we can. But hit us at 10tenspodcast.com, 10tense Podcast on Facebook and Instagram, as well as Car Throttle. And then you can find
Twitter.
us. And Twitter is at the number 10 10th Podcast.
Oh, right. Sorry, I forget it's
you got that
I forget it's different.
That Twitter handle's different. Twitter's a whole different world, man.
It's because Twitter only allowed us to have so many characters. That was the problem.
Well, you know what? We got out a lot better than some other. We were looking at a place that's a pretty big business today, and they got obviously
manufacturer.
Somebody had stolen their handle, and you have to get creative. I'm sure it's a pain because you have to explain that.
Yeah. Every time you want, hey, you should follow us at
This, but it's spelled like this, and there's a number in the middle. So for us, the number 10 tenths podcast is really not that bad. So let's wrap this up, guys. Let's see if we can go.
Let's go mingle tomorrow.
Let's go harass some people and see if we can get some interviews.
Yep, I'm gonna go make some friends, hand out some business cards.
We will. I don't know when we'll catch you next. We're just going to be putting some stuff out.
Yeah, this could. I don't know the order we're going to do this. We're going to do this next week. Are we going to do this after the interview?
So
Who knows?
keep an eye on our iTunes or Google Play accounts as well, because stuff will just be coming out. So
what's awesome about this is that I have to travel for a week for work, so I don't have to worry about figuring out how to get out content. So
we are finally going to be ahead for once.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, friends. We'll catch you guys next time.
Bye.